Hello, this is the 5th talk in the series of lectures on the central nervous system, the periphery nervous system, and the waters they live in. And in this talk we're going to be looking at the ventricles of the central nervous system. I'm recording in nature, so you may hear wind or rain or different noises going on around. Also, there are anatomy paintings to go with these talks, and it's really good to look at those on my website, as there's a far better representation of them on my website. Okay. Well, it's also good while I'm talking to drop inside yourself, breathe, and view the areas I'm talking about for yourself as I'm describing my own sense of them, as well as the anatomy. And if you drop inside, you can feel your own sense of them. It brings it to life when you look for yourself. And however you perceive these areas is correct for you. Okay, so let's begin. So this is the central nervous system, this is the cerebrum, this is the lower brain, this is the spinal cord, surrounded by cranial fluid or water. And around the lower brain, within the brain stem, backing onto cerebellum and down the whole length of the spine, we also have ventricles full of cranial fluid or water. So here we have the ventricles within the central nervous system. These are the lateral ventricles, and they have ducts which come down into the third ventricle. This drops down inside the fourth ventricle, and then that carries on down the whole length of the spine. So this is full of the same cranial fluid that is through the whole central nervous system. It's water, it's mainly water, it's 99% water, glucose, oxygen, salt. It's the same fluid, with one major difference. Within the central nervous system, it's being used. The fluid, the water, the oxygen, salt, glucose is coming out of the capillaries and is being used by the cells. The cells are drinking the water, eating the glucose, breathing the oxygen, and then letting out the water, letting out carbon dioxide, letting out toxins, which then slowly migrates off out through the central nervous system and off out down through the nerves. The waters within the ventricular system as yet is not being used. It's like reservoirs holding, slowly moving through it, but it's keeping its nutriments, it's keeping its oxygen, it's keeping its minerals They're not being used. So it's the same fluid, but it's kept in its prime state. It's not being used. As yet, we will see what it's being used for later. So here we have the brain stem and the cerebellum, the lower brain. And I'm first going to show the ventricles wrapped around the lower brain. Quite often they're shown within the cerebrum, but this is where they actually orientate from. They're coming from within and around the lower brain, and then we'll look at how that connects to the cerebrum as we move through. So here we have the ventricles around the lower brain. Make this a beautiful image of a bird. The lateral ventricles wrapped around the thalamus, third ventricle within the thalamus, fourth ventricle dropping down side the brain stem and backing onto the cerebellum, and then this all dropping down inside the spine. And you can see how nicely they set each other off. They really complement each other, the lower brain and the ventricles. I've never seen pictures like this before. It's not normally drawn in this way, and I was surprised at the geometry of it when I drew it. So there we have the ventricles within the lower brain. These red lines are the choroid plexus. Here, on the top of the third ventricle, on the bottom of the lateral ventricles, this is the choroid plexus. This, to the main part, is producing the nutrition, the water for these caves, for these ventricles, and also filtering it. They're also taking out any toxins, carbon dioxide. So they do both. They produce the environment and they keep the environment nutritious, toxin free. So here we have a front view of that. Here we have these horns, the lateral ventricles. They drop into the third ventricle. This drops down into this diamond, which is the fourth ventricle. And then this comes down, again, down, 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 the whole length of the spine. This is important. This grounds it. Where it moves down the spine, this grounds it. This is the two lobes of the cerebellum, the pons, the medulla oblongata, the midbrain, the two lobes of the thalamus. The choroid plexus will be at the top of the third ventricle. It comes through these tubes, wraps around the horns. So this is a cross-section of the thalamus. These are kind of 3D. It's a cross-section of the thalamus, but as the thalamus comes forwards, it connects all the way around. And the choroid plexus is on the surface of the thalamus. then within the thalamus, here, and then at the back of the pons, and backing on to the cerebellum. This creates the environment and preserves the environment. And then this drops down through the whole spinal cord. Again, the very lovely geometry of how it fits round the lower brain. I always felt it as this in myself, but I was surprised how nice it looked as pictures. So it's not normally depicted in this way. So it's good to feel that inside. You've got those images, but it's also good just to close your eyes and drop back behind that. Feel those ventricles, the lateral ventricles wrapped around the thalamus, the third ventricle within the thalamus, fourth ventricle dropping down inside the brain stem and backing onto cerebellum, and then dropping down the full length of the spine. Now, quite often people will be looking for a bright light. But for me, or how I mainly perceive these, they're dark. They're like a dark well, or darkish. They have a darker quality to it. It's like a well dropping down, and the lower brain has this darker quality. If you perceive them within the cerebrum, then it's bright, but they are actually of the lower brain. So it's good to feel them wrapped around the thalamus, inside the thalamus, dropping down through the lower brain and then down through the spinal cord like a well. They're like a well, and often there's a gravity and a darkness. And a pull down, there's a pull down. It's a bit like going down a plug hole. However you perceive it is okay, but that is generally my perception. So you breathe and you feel that, feel the qualities of that. Especially as it drops down in the spinal cord. The spinal cord really grounds the energy of it. Okay. So here we have them with their tails. Again, it was very interesting. I'm not an artist. I had to rub things out a lot of times to make these pictures, but each time I drew one of these ones around the brainstem and the spinal cord, I really surprised myself kind of how nice the geometry of it was, the makeup of it was. And you can see, we can feel inside ourselves when we look at pictures that are of our anatomy, we can feel it within, and we can feel the energy of it, and we can see the structure of it and how it works energetically. And you can see how these tails ground the upper image. The tails are of the earth. They're like the root. So it's really good, this ventricle. For me, the fourth ventricle continues down the spine. Normally it's called central canal, but for me energetically it's an extension of the fourth ventricle, and it is a ventricle. So I just hold it as that, as this well, starting here, down there, dropping down and dropping down the spine. There's this deep grounding as it drops down there, here, rolling round, round, down, 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 down. This gives it its earth. Again, this fluid is different. It is different. It's not being used as yet. It is still oxygen, glucose, minerals. It's still 99% water. And here we have just the ventricles. Again, really good to look at these on the website. Unfortunately, they don't come out, exactly the same as the paintings, but at least there's a better view of them on the website. It is good to look on the website and view these on the website because you get a better image. Again, as I said, I'm not an artist, but when I painted these, for me they have got a bit of an otherworldly quality to them. It's a bit like Mr. and Mrs. E.T. Here we have the front image from the front, then dropping down the spine, the lateral ventricles coming into the third ventricle, the fourth ventricle, and down the spine. Again, you can see how the spine earths it. And then here, or the man is looking that way, the face is to the left, the cerebellum is the back of the head to the right. Then again this tail brings it to earth, it gives it its earth, it gives it its substance, it gives it its ground. But within this picture, and I've drawn them in light blue, but because it is water, but within myself I feel it as a deep, quite dark well with a lot of earthing. And again, you can feel it, or I can feel it in this picture. There's kind of another worldly quality. Is it of this earth, but it's of all earths. So quite often people will view darkness as bad. We're going for the light. Not going for the darkness, we're going for the light. But often at the center of things, and often in holographic breathing, there's a darkness, like a depth, an emptiness, a nothingness, a void. It's like the void. This primordial darkness. And it's a place of rest. It's a place of deep nurturing. And it is like the place we go to, we die or we go through a death, and then we drop into this place, this void. And in one sense it is empty, but in another sense it's full, because there's the potential of everything that is born and can be created comes out of that. So there's both. There's the emptiness, there's the nothingness. You can go there and you completely can let go of all of your baggage, everything you've hung on to. And there's a death. There's an internal death. To let go of things, often we have to go through a death, but when you welcome that death, you can easily drop into this void, and there's levels of it. You can just drop deeper, deeper and deeper and deeper. And for me, that is the quality I feel in this central part of the nervous system, at the core of the central nervous system. There's a lot of light in the body of the central nervous system, especially in the cerebrum. But in the core there seems for me this dark well running down. And it has this otherworldly quality. In one of the seminars we take a journey to the centre of the earth. And there's a lot of light, a lot of different energies at different colours we go through. And then when you get to the centre of the earth, there's this space, and when you go into it, there's a nothingness and a darkness, and the whole earth disintegrates and leaves, and you're left at the centre of the galaxy or the centre of the universe, somewhere. Centre of somewhere, I'm not exactly sure where it is. And it's like that. At the centre of the galaxy there's a black hole. Apparently there's a black hole, but all of this light is being born out of it. All of these stars are being born out of it. All of these solar systems are being born out of it. So there's a gravity, it's pulling stuff in. Apparently goes off into another universe or something. Coming out of it, light, stars. So for me, light shines out of darkness, as well as light illuminating darkness. Some darknesses kind of in a way precede light. First there was the void and then there was light, something like that. But anyway, that's my perception. You may perceive it completely differently, and that is fine. But it's nice to allow yourself to allow in that darkness, because it's truly a place of deep rest, a place of deep letting go. The cerebrum has got much more light. And that comes into the fourth ventricle, into the lateral ventricles as well. But as we drop down, it's a bit like a vortex. So the fluid or the water is coming into mainly, or to start off with, into these lateral ventricles. And it's circling, see, both of them, it's spiralling in, then drops down. Apparently it spirals in the third ventricle, and then goes down a bit like the plug hole. It's a bit like a vortex, going in and then down the plug hole. Comes in, rotates in, and then when it's in here also rotates, drops down, 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 down. So we're not going to get through all the pictures and parts I thought we were going to. Let's just meditate on that, and then we'll go on through the rest of the pictures in the next part. So if you close your eyes and then just breathe, and dropping back in yourself, back of the head, to this deep well. And there's a earthing, there's a gravity, there's a deep gravity and a downward pull in these internal caves. Now you may feel it completely differently, and that is fine. However you feel it is fine. Sometimes if there's a lot of light coming through, then there's a lightness to them. But for me also there's a lot of gravity to this well. and allow it to drop down the length of your spine, inside your spine, at the center of your spine. There's a deep relaxation here. There's a deep letting go. You can truly drop back into nothingness here. And then this all spreads out off through the nerves. You can allow it to travel down through the nerves. It has a different quality as it travels off down the nerves as what we've been looking at in the central nervous system, in the body of the central nervous system. But allow that energy to travel off through the nerves and into the body. Okay, so we're going to carry on in that, in our part 2 for that. Our video only lasts for half an hour. Okay, thank you.